Aloha everyone and welcome to Skincare with Hyram. If you don't know who I am, my name's Hyram and I'm passionate about teaching you how to perfect your skincare routine. So make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you can see my videos every single week. You may notice I'm in a different location. You may hear some background traffic noises because I'm not at home, clearly. I'm currently traveling for work on the go. And of course, I could not have chosen a better time to talk about this topic because I'm gonna be teaching you how to read an ingredient list in less than 2 minutes. 2 minutos. So if you've watched any of my videos, you know that reading an ingredient list can be really complex. And here's the hard, brutal truth. It is. It's very hard because there are so many ingredient lists out there and it can seem really intimidating because I know the feeling all too well as an ongoing struggle of going to the store, finding a product, picking it up, turning it around, and seeing hieroglyphics on the back. Ingredient lists look really confusing, and as I was first getting into skincare, I would look at those ingredient lists like, what? But as I was first learning about products, I found some tips and tricks that made it a little bit easier to read an ingredient list. Things that helped me understand if this product was right or not for my skin. And I want to share some tips and tricks with you. This video is also thankfully sponsored by Bubble Skincare, and I'm going to be using some of their products to show you how to read an ingredient list. Now I will say there are tens of thousands of ingredients out there, so by the end of this video, you're not going to be able to magically understand them all, although I wish I could grant you that power. Hell, I wish I could grant myself that power. This will be able to help you look out for some key ingredients and connect you with tools and resources to make reading an ingredient list a little bit easier. So let's get into it. My first recommendation is to look at the top 5 ingredients in a product. An ingredient list is labeled from highest concentration to lowest concentration. So whatever's located at the top of the ingredient list has the most presence in the formula, and whatever's located at the bottom of the ingredient list has the least presence in the formula. Now disclaimer, this recommendation and a lot of my recommendations are more centered around laws under the FDA, as that's what I'm most familiar with. If you're in another country, there may be some different regulation, but most of the world follows this specific rule that you have to show the ingredients from the highest concentration to the lowest concentration. Now, when you get around the 1% line, it does get a little bit tricky, so this isn't like a hard line rule. Welcome to the skincare world where it is an entirely gray area. However, knowing that can show you what's most present in a formula versus what's least present in a formula, just to give you an idea of what the formula is made of. Now, it's really important not to get caught up too much in percentages, what percentage of this ingredient, what percentage of that ingredient, because at the end of the day, the people who formulated the product, chemists, know best. However, knowing the top 5 ingredients is a great start to understanding what's in the formula. Let's first look at the ingredient list of the Bubble Level Up Balancing Moisturizer. Now, you guys probably recognize this moisturizer. I featured it in my Best Moisturizers of 2020 video. It's a great one that has a light gel consistency that works amazing for anyone who has combination or oily skin and has some really impressive ingredients. So looking at the list, the first ingredient is water, and this is typical for pretty much every single product out there that I've seen. Very few products don't have water. It's just what makes up the majority of skincare products out there. The second ingredient is glycerin. Glycerin is a great ingredient for hydrating the skin. It works as kind of a polymer to make that, serum moisturizer type consistency that works really well to spread ingredients across the skin. The third ingredient is caprylic triglyceride, and this is an ingredient that helps to create that more moisturizer feel, the creamier, heavier consistency. Glycerin on its own has a more lightweight, runny type of texture. Caprylic triglyceride is able to add kind of that creamy thickness. Now, the fourth ingredient is cannabis sativa or hemp seed oil. Now, this is a great ingredient for moisturizing the skin. It may have some benefits for reducing redness all over. It's a great ingredient for its ability to nourish the skin. And finally, the fifth ingredient is oleoyl irrocate. I may know a little bit about reading an ingredient list, but I still have no idea how the f to pronounce most ingredients. This is an emollient similar to caprylic triglyceride that adds that kind of richness, that texture to a product to make sure that it's enjoyable to use. And these types of ingredients are important because if you just throw a bunch of, good skincare ingredients together, that doesn't mean it's gonna feel nice when you're applying it across your skin. So those are the top 5 ingredients of the Bubble Level Up Balancing Moisturizer, which helps us understand that, okay, this is definitely gonna have a moisturizer feel, maybe a little bit more rich of a texture as compared to like a serum or a toner. Now, if you're wondering, Hyram, how the heck do I learn what ingredient does what? No worries, I will teach you in a little bit. But overall, this is just helpful for us to understand what is most present in the formula. Now, step number 2 is to find ingredients in an ingredient list that work best for your skin type. One of the most helpful things you can do when it comes to reading an ingredient list is knowing what ingredients to look for. If you're someone who has dry skin and you're trying to find ingredients in a product that are best for oily skin, you're probably not gonna get a lot of good results because the product isn't meant for your skin in the first place. Having a a running list of ingredients that you know to look out for makes it a lot easier when you're looking through ingredient lists and trying to find if that product is right for your skin. So first, I'll make a few ingredient recommendations that you can jot down, but honestly, if you watch any of my videos, I like to go through ingredients and which ones are best for what skin type. If you have oily skin, I recommend looking for ingredients like niacinamide, salicylic acid, willow bark extract, a natural form of salicylic acid, glycerin, and jojoba oil, just to name a few, but there's so many out there. Now, if you have more dry skin, I recommend looking for ingredients like shea butter, squalane, avocado oil, metafoam seed oil, glycerin, and munu munu butter, also to name a few. And of course, if you have more combination skin, it would be a mixture of both, and if you have normal skin, you are free to use whatever the heck you want. Now, knowing these ingredients, let's take a look at the Bubble Slam Dunk Hydrating Moisturizer to see what skin type it would be best for. So we see that it has glycerin, a great ingredient for hydrating the skin. Looking down, we'll see that it has Persea gratissima or avocado oil, another ingredient great for nourishing dry skin. And right after it, we'll see that it has shea butter, a great ingredient for really moisturizing the skin. So I would note that this moisturizer definitely has ingredients that are great for dry skin. And you can repeat this cycle for any product. Let's take a look at the Break Even Balancing Toner. So looking at it, we'll see that it first has glycerin, a great ingredient for pretty much all skin types. We'll see niacinamide, great for controlling oiliness on the skin. We see willow bark extract, a natural form of salicylic acid that works to really control oiliness on the skin and exfoliate deeply in the pores. And even right after it, we'll see green tea extract, which I personally believe is great for oily skin because of its antioxidant abilities, even though I didn't mention it before. But already we see 3 primary ingredients that I had mentioned before that I know are great for oily skin. Now, yes, of course, you can always look at the description of a product and see if it's meant for more oily or dry skin, but a lot of times it can be reassuring to know what some of the ingredients are to make sure that they're primarily meant for your skin type. Now, the third thing you can do as well, if you're someone who really wants to understand what every single ingredient does, its functionality, what it's meant to do, there are tons of resources online to be able to help with that. Bubble actually has a skin school on their website that has some great resources and different points talking about what ingredients they do use, what ingredients they don't use, and why, which is a great start to learning about ingredient lists. But you can also use other websites where you can search the ingredient and see what it's supposed to do. I personally like using NC Decoder or even Cause DNA, which that one's kind of cool because you can copy and paste an ingredient list into the website to see the functionality of every single ingredient. I will say, however, it's always good to be a little bit skeptical with these and be aware of any ingredient ratings. These websites I find can be great for understanding what an ingredient does for the skin, but I don't think it's good to rely on these websites to understand if an ingredient is good or bad. It's always best to listen to dermatologists and chemists for that. And then the final step is always to look through the entire ingredient list to watch out for any ingredients that you may not want on your skin. You may have some skin sensitivities, or you just want to avoid certain types of ingredients just to avoid skin sensitivity in general. And it's important to always look for those ingredients so that you don't push your skin over the edge. One of those ingredients, for example, with me is undisclosed fragrance. A lot of brands will use the term fragrance on their ingredient lists, which could actually be one term for hundreds and hundreds of ingredients that make up a singular fragrance of a product. Now, they do this to make the ingredient list shorter, but the problem is that we have no idea what all of those different ingredients and components are. And I personally like to avoid fragrance because fragrance sensitivities are really common and it's just a really unnecessary reason for experiencing irritation in your skin. I always like to look for and use brands that don't use undisclosed fragrance. And actually, Bubble does not use undisclosed fragrance in their products. They're simple, effective, great for anyone who has sensitive skin. And they actually have an entire section on their website talking about why they don't like to use undisclosed fragrance, what specific ingredients are on their list that might look like fragrance at first, ingredients like citrullinol, eugenol, etc., that actually aren't fragrant ingredients. And they really deep dive there. I love how transparent they are about why they use what ingredients and why they don't use other ingredients. But I choose to avoid fragrance, so that's why I always look for it on an ingredient list to make sure it's not in the products I use. If you have any ingredients that you want to avoid or look out for, I highly recommend watching for those as you look through an ingredient list. Now, I know you're probably sitting there like, I'm gonna be able to do that in 2 minutes? I know, don't worry, it feels super overwhelming, but I promise once you get into the flow, you'll be able to do it super quickly, and it'll be so helpful in helping you know which products are gonna be best for your skin and not. Now, I will say all of this, everything I have said in the video comes with a massive disclaimer. Solely reading an ingredient list does not replace the actual experience of using the product. Everything in skincare is really relative, and reading an ingredient list does not mean that you'll know exactly how the product feels, exactly how effective it will be. It's impossible to know all of that just from an ingredient list. And I definitely don't want to contribute to the belief that, everything you need to know about a product just from reading the ingredient list. Take, for example, the Level Up Balancing Moisturizer. One of the primary ingredients in this is hemp seed oil. And hemp seed oil is typically used in more rich, really nourishing, really moisturizing products that are meant for really dry skin. And looking at this ingredient list, I may have been like, oh, this might be a little bit of a heavier moisturizer. However, it's an extremely lightweight gel moisturizer and a really cool formulation portion of the ingredient that makes it accessible for people who have oily skin. Looking solely at this ingredient list, I wouldn't have known that the texture and experience is so lightweight. So it's important to know that you're not going to know everything about a product. That's not what this video is about. However, this will help to make it a little bit easier to understand if a product is best for your skin or not, help you navigate the complex skincare shopping experience, and just make life a little bit easier. Also, all the Bubble products will be listed in the description box below. If you do want to check them out, they have great products, great formulas with really impressive ingredients at affordable price points. And I recommend checking them out, so they'll be in the description box below. What are your guys' thoughts? Have you learned any tips and tricks about how to read an ingredient list? I know it is crazy complicated, and the fact that I'm trying to explain how to read an ingredient list in 2 minutes is like so difficult, but I hope this can at least help you out a little bit in knowing what products are going to be best for your skin and just, make your life a little bit easier. That's what I'm here for. And if you guys haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you can see my videos every single week, and I will see you guys in the next one. Mwah.